Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, May 24th will be the holiday that we will celebrate this year. And they say the clock will stop on 6 o'clock twice. So it's, it's stopping on May 24th. My good friend, Minister Weeks, and I always have a good chuckle as to the significance of May 24th. It's an anniversary week, so I'll start off by saying an early happy anniversary to my darling us in the marina as we planned that day. So we always had a holiday around the anniversary, but Weeks took care of that for me, but for good reason, and we have a good chuckle about it. Last year, on May 20, on the holiday, Bermuda Day holiday, we were greeted with some of the most inclement weather for a festive occasion that you could ever have imagined. And to the credit of the minister responsible for, at that time, it was uh, youth culture and sport, now tourism, culture, and sport, Senator the Honorable Owen Darrell, the decision was made that the show must go on. And to his credit, I will say this: he's unashamedly always said that it's the most favorite holiday of the year for him, having been one who sets up camp. I think a couple of weeks ago, I was walking, I saw some silver tape in Hamilton, and I noticed that, boy, some folks have got the spot already down there on Court Street as you turn the corner. And so it's a very important holiday for many Bermudians. A lot of people, younger people, probably wouldn't realize that the Bermuda Day holiday was something that grew out of the actual pit report during the periods when Bermuda had some riots in the 60s and 70s, and social scientists evaluated Bermuda and came up with some recommendations that would help shift the paradigm of Bermuda and make Bermuda more in tune for Bermudians. And so at that particular time, I believe was during the early 80s, the Bermuda Day holiday was introduced. Funny enough, around that time, there was a person who was leading Bermuda at that particular time, shall remain nameless, don't have to call it there. He was the longest serving premier, actually had 30 seats, just like we had today. A lot of people don't realize that the former government of the day had a overwhelming majority in the House. And that overwhelming majority was deliberate because the government of the day had some, in 1983, the election that I ran when I was 25 years old, won 24 seats, 24 to 16 at that particular time, was 40 in the House. And the gentleman who was leading the country saw divisions within the Bermuda Industrial Union and actually was able to get some of those persons to actually move in his direction and support him. Yeah. And he saw an opportunity and he pounced upon it. And the PLP went down to 7 members, Mr. Speaker. And the government of the day had 30 seats. Yeah. And I've said this before when I've looked across, and today I'm happy to see the opposition leader and another member in the seat. But there's been a lot of Fridays in here when the opposition, with their 5 or 6 members, deliberately absent themselves from the House, didn't speak on the motion to adjourn, and relied on the Royal Gazette, relied on ZBM to ask all the questions, and wonder why Lindsey Simmons will win this election on May 22nd. Because at some point in time, people have to realize that it's about making a commitment to people, making a commitment to issues, being consistent, not just saying what people want to hear, or not just coming up with an argument. Earlier today, not to reflect, it was crystal clear. the difference between the concessions that are available for hotels today and the way in which hotel spaces were eroded in this country between 1980 and 1998. It's no secret. Persons saw a different opportunity in business and encouraged people to move away from renting their houses as um, guest houses and the like, and lease them out to persons who would guarantee them an incentive. Well, how would they do that an incentive? Well, they would, some of them prepaid their rents in sufficient enough time, in sufficient enough months that they could make a balloon payment on their mortgages. Because back in 1980, mortgages were only handed out around election time, and they were very sparingly given. And at that particular time, during those particular days, there were a lot of things that were done deliberately to curry favor. And I hear people, listen, I've said it before. I've seen, Mr. Speaker, where we have a commission of inquiry. But I know, and I would encourage anybody who wants to really look at history. I mentioned that persons who come to Bermuda from overseas to look at Bermuda, whether or not they be representing governments from the UK or not, to look at the history, look at the actual historical connections of persons. I remember when most black people in the early 80s put their money in deposit companies. When two deposit companies were very popular in this country, and they didn't have banks. I remember a young man had a bank charter that he got as a consequence of being good friends with the opposition leader, Mr. Al Frederick Reid, and the PLP voted to issue a bank charter to a sitting member. And that sitting member sold that bank charter to a former premier and a former finance minister whose company also earned a bank charter. I'm not making this stuff up. And I'm here to tell you. And if anyone were to look at the connections, the business connections between contracts up and down this country, starting St. George's, go all the way and look to see how those connections manifested with persons who held positions in cabinet today. Listen, I've been one who, no matter where I've stood in life, I've always been able to look and speak about institutional racism and how it manifests itself. One thing I've appreciate and learned that when you were the pen of PLP, people would automatically assume the very worst of you at the very least, and go out of their way to say things about you, even if it isn't true. And if it's written in the Royal Gazette, it's got to be true, they would say. I've seen lies written and persons believe it because that's their culture of socialization. I'm here to tell you today, Mr. Speaker, that I believe that Bermuda would be well served with the Progressive Labour Party coming to Parliament after May 22nd with 31 members. I would say that based on the resume of a young lady whose life experiences has been one of service, not to be on a board, not to be one who's going to say, listen, we need to do that, and by the way, that person's going to be on a share register somewhere else, because that's the way it's been in this country for centuries, for decades. I mean, you all know it to be true. I'm here to say that this young lady that went to Berkeley, that received the Paul Harris Award for foster care, who received the Queen's Badge of Honor in 2018 for foster care, who was the foster parent of the year, who make sure that angels tree gifts for children in foster care and big brothers and sisters things, initiated charity for drinks program that are doing things in the community as we speak, is fit for purpose to be in this house. Why? Because, not too often do you get people getting up in this house and talking about the social problems of this country, talking about the children that are at risk, talking about the murders that have been taken place in this country, or some of the violence that makes it very untenable for some families and some communities in this country. This lady is fit for purpose to walk into any one of those communities today and curry favor and to be able to assist us in this country to move forward. And 31 seats would be an opportunity for the opposition. We need an opposition. I'm the first person to tell you. But you don't need an opposition that don't want to be here on a Friday afternoon. No. I would sooner have a Lindsay here with us. Someone who's going to tell you what time it is. Someone who knows about how to go out and raise money. Who knows that you can put at Cedar Bridge and be able to walk those corridors and curry the respect. Someone that works in the community, someone that's prepared to think outside the box. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to say that in the spirit of Bermuda Day, let's take this opportunity on May 22nd to set the tone for May 24th. The spirit of togetherness in this country, the way in which we're going to go in this country and deal with some of the social issues, it's going to take people that have a passion and a commitment to doing it. It's going to take people and persons who are connected with the very community we're trying to heal and fix. I've always been one that had a sore spot in my heart for persons who not only are prepared to speak on social issues, but to live it. And it's a difference. And let me say this. The most successful economic boom this country has ever experienced took place under a previous PLP administration. Post the period of the Great Recession, before that, and you know what, Mr. Speaker, before that recession, we had a very buoyant economy. And we are seeing this country make its recovery. We are seeing this country concentrate on getting more tourists in this island between November and April. And we know that as we have to do this, because the opportunities that exist are with the unsold inventory that we have in hotels during that time period. We just don't have the beds to fill out. We had successful events with Sail GP. I declare my interest. I'm the offspring of John Anderson. I'm the offspring of Charles Rote Rattery. I grew up around the water. Nearly got lost at sea with Chesley Trott, so I committed myself to the land. It's true. Ask any of those boys up White Hill. I was a fisherman's grandson. His beloved took him through the Ton Cut at age 3 to watch his cousin Gladwin Lambert sail for the first time in the Comet race, unbeknown to his mother, who left him home with her mother. John says, "Come with me. Stop crying." And we went through Ton Cut. So I love the water. But the sea can teach you lessons. Lessons like still need to be taught by persons who don't value the working folk of this country by their deeds. Money don't grow on trees. We have social issues. My colleague Lindsay Simmons understands the social issues. My colleague Lindsay Simmons has lived amongst people, has worked to help people. wants to give her life even further in that of service. I'm calling on those good people in number 10 myself. Been hobbling around for the last few months, fighting off injuries. But if I can convince one or two more folks to look at Lindsay, look at what the service that she has to offer, how it can benefit not only that community, but community at large. The benefit that she could provide for the minister responsible for workforce development, the support that she could provide for the minister of education, the support that she could provide for the minister responsible for youth and seniors, the support that she could provide for Minister Tanae Herbert responsible for seniors and social and financial assistance, the support that she could provide in national security for my good friend Minister Weeks and the like. I say the opportunity, Bermuda, is to say that Lindsay Simmons is the person for the job. Lindsay Simmons is more than just the only lady on the ballot. She's the best person to represent this country at such a time as this. And I look forward to doing whatever I can to help her. Because you know, one thing I know is that no matter what, as long as the good Lord blesses her with good health and strength, she will continue to serve the way she's always served for the rest of her days. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP.